You hear this in the new age all the time. Raise your vibration, increase your frequency. And there's this movement, right, in the new age to glorify raising your vibes as an end all be all. But I want to discuss why that's not what spirituality is at all. And if you've ever been told that you're too low frequency or that you need to raise your vibes, this video is for you. I want to discuss what vibes are, why spirituality has nothing to do with raising your vibes, and what you can do instead. So, what are vibes? Vibes is just another way of saying like your being or your sense of awareness, how aware or how in the moment you are, right? But vibes is like a new age modern attempt to try to quantify something that is more of a subjective thing, right? You're trying to objectify this expression of your being, of your awareness of the current moment, right? So if you're low vibration, you're just either in a state where you're not feeling good, or you're kind of cloudy in your head, or you're kind of, maybe sad or something. So you're not totally there. You're not totally aware, you're not totally awake and clear. So you're low vibe, right? And so the new age talks about raising your vibes as if that's the answer to everything. And like, in all seriousness, if you can just raise your vibes all the time, yeah, that probably will work out and you'll probably be the better for it. But that's not what spirituality is about. I mean, that's just achieving a better state for yourself, a state of well being. So that's totally backwards, right? Because when you develop spiritually, it's deep introspection. You're dealing with inner trauma and inner pain. And when you deal with that and you work through it, you become a better version of yourself. You become more clear. You become more aware of your being and your awareness, your being. You naturally raise your vibes, your vibration. You become a better person, right? By doing hard spiritual work, which is inner work. And so without that deep work, you can't just raise your vibes. It's sort of like trying to increase the effect of something without ever even touching or trying to focus on the cause of it, which would the cause of high vibes, good vibes is being well in yourself. And you do that by doing deep work, deep inner work, dealing with your inner shadows or your dark, the dark sides of yourself and working through that. And then you get the effect, which is like high vibes or good vibes, right? So when you focus on just good vibes, try to raise your vibes, try to be like positive. It's totally backwards, right? And so while it's not dangerous or anything to try to raise your vibes, I mean, yeah, that's cool and you should try to do that, but it's sort of a waste of time and you're not really focusing on the right thing. You need to shift your perspective to real inner work, which is not fun, right? It's hard work. It's looking at all the stuff in yourself that is like the lies and the self-deception, everything that's not perfect within yourself, and kind of bringing that to the surface and dealing with it, right? So I have this story where I was really into like Ram Dass, and I was listening to a lot of Ram Dass, and he talks about a lot about devotion, right? And I was in this state where I was trying to like integrate this his practices into my life, and I was at Joshua Tree for the weekend, and I was just so like I had such a sense of devotion of everything. I tried to see God in everything. like in my dog, in the tree, and and for a whole weekend at Joshua Tree, I actually felt like super blissful, and I felt super just like high, like without any substances. I felt very high, and I felt very high vibe, right? But as I left Joshua Tree and got back to real life, it was just like I just crashed, and I wasn't able to keep that high vibe state, and I was like, "What's wrong here?" Like, like I couldn't really keep that state because I was just focusing on trying to keep a high vibe. And I wasn't actually, the problem is that I wasn't actually grounded in my inner work, and I wasn't really working on myself, and I really didn't integrate the high vibrations that I had through practicing that devotion, right? And that is actually one of the practices that I want to say is that devotion, having a sense of being devout in devotion and having inspiration and awe, looking at things and being in awe, really does gather a very positive force in you. But you have to work with that and you have to integrate it. You can't always just have like just want high vibes and just go for high vibes, right? One spiritual practice actually is devotion. So if you are able to look for the worthy and the value in everything and try not to look at the negative, that is actually a spiritual exercise, and that develops an inner force in you. And that's actually very necessary for occult training, is this sense and practice of constant devotion towards life, towards nature, towards people. Even the worst people, there's something in them that you can be inspired by. And by gathering this force, you actually do increase your vibes, but you don't keep your high vibe state unless you integrate. So, a very good way to integrate is to take a moment out of your day, and just sit in inner tranquility. Try to push all the thoughts out of your mind of your worries, right? Stop thinking about yourself. Start thinking about the essential nature behind yourself. So, what I like to do is I like to start with, okay, I'm an American citizen living in the US. And then I would say to myself, what if tomorrow I wasn't an American citizen? I totally moved somewhere different and I was no longer a citizen of the US. Great. Okay, so I'm able to kind of shed like layers of my identity. And next, I go down another layer. I go down the layer of like, okay, like my family, I'm in this kind of family or social class. What if tomorrow I lost everything and I started, mopping floors in a different country? Then I start to shed these layers, and then behind all of that, though, I say, okay, if I lose all these things of my identity, what is behind all of that? What is the essential essence that still lies behind all that? And so I keep going down these layers. I go deeper and deeper, all the way to the point where I'm like trying to get rid of, like I say, like, what if I didn't have like my body? What would I be? What would be left? What essence would be left? And I come to this state of inner tranquility because as I shed my ego, I no longer have so many of those attachments that bring down my state, that bring down my vibe. You see, you have a high vibe, but you can't keep it because you go back to your old habits, your old routines. And by sitting in inner tranquility and separating yourself a little bit from your conception of your ego, you're able to break free of your attachments for a little while, right? And that is actually integrating or helps to integrate your high vibe state, right? Or else you're just going high vibe and then you're just crashing to low vibe, like what happened to me when I went to Joshua Tree. So I hope this video was helpful. Um, Spirituality is not about raising your vibes. At least that's totally a backwards way of thinking about it. I think that really one should focus on the inner development, the hard work, and the vibes will come as a natural consequence of such. And vibes are just a state of being, a state of awareness. It's it's your expression of yourself and how highly or lowly energetic that state of expression is. So I hope you found this video helpful. Again, I'm kind of just babbling now, but tell me what your thoughts are on this. Tell me if you think I'm like totally off or if this kind of struck a chord with you. Is being high vibe all the time the way to go? Or are we just really looking at the effect of an underlying cause, which would be real spiritual work? What is real spiritual work? Am I talking nonsense here? Or is this something that makes sense? Please let me know. Thanks for watching, and until next time.